If you're doing a job like, let's say, cutting down a tree, you need the right tool for the job. The question exists, is motivation the right tool?
We like to feel we are good at something, are making a difference, and enjoy being self-directed and connected to others.
Ultimately, we don't want to stand up and just tell our people that this is what we're doing. We have to give them the business reasons behind it. And we have to communicate it in terms that those people can relate to their jobs.
Welcome to the Inside Forbes Council's podcast. Each episode shares transformative insights and advice from members of Forbes Councils, a group of invitation-only communities for successful executives and entrepreneurs. This is Inside Forbes Councils.
Welcome to episode 20 of the Inside Forbes Council's podcast. My name is Stephen Ganoza. Leaders strive to motivate their teams, but is such a thing even possible? Perhaps the entire concept of motivating employees is wrong. Today, Forbes Council's members John Hittler, Ed Krow, and Frances McIntosh share some unique insights on what it means to motivate and inspire your employees. John Hittler is back on the show again today, and he's going to share his tips for getting the best performance out of talented people.
I'm John Hittler, part of the Forbes Coaching Council. Hey, how is it that super smart, talented people often underachieve? Well, there's a counterintuitive reason that I see over and over again. And that is these underachievers are being motivated as their primary form of leadership in the organization. That is, the leaders are trying to motivate them on a daily basis. Motivation almost always comes with some form of push. Well, if you're doing a job like, let's say, cutting down a tree, you need the right tool for the job. The question exists, is motivation the right tool? More often than not, it's an inappropriate tool for leading and moving an organization forward. And why? The number one reason is that motivation works best in the short term. So it's great for a sporting event where it's 60 minutes or 4 quarters or 2 halves. You can short term get your team emotionally pushing forward in a way that they wouldn't in a practice. Great, it's perfect for that. It's great for the end of the quarter when you need to hit your sales push. The last 3 days of the quarter, you need to make those last few sales to hit your numbers. Motivation works really well. It's great in the short term, but long term, it generally produces, if it's the primary form of leadership, it produces underachievers. Well, so if you don't cut down a tree with a screwdriver, what other tools could you use? Let's look at a few of them. How about something as simple and old-fashioned as good habits? Let's say you're trying to get in shape. It's raining outside, you've signed up for a boot camp, and it meets at 5:30 in a local park with 12 other people. If it's raining and it's cold and it's November, how motivated do you feel getting out of a warm bed at 5:15 to be able to get to the park by 5:30? Man, I wouldn't want to bet on your willingness to get out of bed to go out in a drizzle and 40 degrees to work out at a boot camp. But what if you had the habit every day of doing 20 push-ups, 20 sit-ups, and 20 squats regardless? It would take less than 6 minutes. And if you did it as a habit, no one, including you, most notably you, will care how you feel about it. 6 minutes later, it's done. And 60 days later, you're in much better shape because the habit will beat out the power or the lack of power from your motivation. So habits is a great one. How about systems and processes? As a tool, especially where quality or safety are concerned, I would much prefer that my safety is backed up by reliable systems and processes rather than your feeling motivated to follow them. If the systems and processes are bulletproof, I'll feel safer, or our quality will be much higher than whether or not you feel like doing the job today. So systems and processes are a great tool that defeats or outperforms, if you will, the power of motivation or the lack of power of motivation. How about purpose? Ever work at a charity? You spend a day at a Habitat for Humanity or working in a food bank or a soup kitchen. You're connected to the reason why or the purpose, way more powerful than feeling motivated to do something on a short-term basis. So if you can connect your purpose to what you're doing, you don't need motivation. We find some of the best companies are run by inspiration and leadership in combination. Now they're different. Great leaders know how to inspire and they know how to lead. Let's look at the difference between the two. Inspiration comes from the Greek word, the etymology is, quote, to breathe into or to breathe life into. When you inspire someone, you breathe life or you give them wings or you push them forward by literally putting oxygen in their lungs. Wow, much more powerful than motivation. Leadership comes from the German word to guide. When CEOs or team leaders or senior leadership groups guide rather than motivate, the teams tend to perform much better. How about genius talent? You ever heard the term? Genius talent, simply put, is the singular gift of high-level, genius-level talent that you and every person on your team possesses. Do you know what that is for each of your teammates? If not, endeavor to find it. You'll never work a day in your life if you're working in your genius talent, because your genius talent holds as part of it an ease, a joy, a passion that you get to play at work. When you play in your genius talent, you don't need to be motivated. And the last one I'll suggest is a sense of service. Great companies have as their leader a servant, someone who serves the employees, like takes good care of them, someone who serves the customers, someone who serves the organization. And then what gets modeled in the organization is that the employees serve each other and they serve the customers. Wow, you don't need to be motivated when you're acting out of a sense, a high calling that we would call service. You still want to motivate? You can. It's a tool. It works at specific times. Rarely does it work as well as other tools. So be careful, because the last thing you want to do is have to chop down a tree using a screwdriver. Till we meet again, I'm John Hittler. All the best.
This is Inside Forbes Councils. We'll be right back.
Are you a successful executive or entrepreneur with insights to share? Learn more about our invitation-only communities at ForbesCouncils.com. Forbes Councils members have the opportunity to collaborate with fellow business leaders to overcome challenges and create new opportunities. Members also have access to support benefits that help them save time and money, and a platform, Community Voice, on Forbes.com, through which they can amplify their voices and exchange ideas. See if you qualify at ForbesCouncils.com.
Next, Frances McIntosh is back on the show. She's the CEO of Intentional Coaching, and today she's going to discuss the difference between motivation and inspiration and how we need to inspire our teams to self-motivate.
Hi, my name is Frances McIntosh. I'm the founder and CEO of Intentional Coaching. You can't motivate your team, but you can inspire them. Really? I dare you to motivate me. This is what I think when I hear someone say they are a motivational speaker. Not because there isn't value in motivational speaking. There absolutely is. But because individuals need to motivate themselves to have lasting impact. To do this, we must get clear on how to self-motivate, which often comes down to understanding our own personal values. Without knowing an individual's core values, how can we even think that we can motivate another person? But let's back up for a moment and look at what exactly motivation is. Motivation is the external, extrinsic, or internal, intrinsic reason we take action on a particular task. External motivation often shows up in the form of a reward, such as money, fame, good grades, or praise. Internal motivation is driven by our innate psychological needs: competence, autonomy, and psychological relatedness. Basically, this means we like to feel we are good at something, are making a difference, and enjoy being self-directed and connected to others. It's for this reason I struggle with the title Motivational Speaker. You may inspire me to be motivated if you pay me to listen to you, but you can't internally motivate me for the long term. So how do we motivate our teams? Number 1, connect with their core values. By identifying what's important to them and what their core values are, your people will have a better understanding of how to motivate themselves in their role because they're better able to connect what they're doing to their internal self. Number 2, provide clarity on everyone's expectation. As the leader, it's important not to get caught up with everyone should be able to do everything. Rather, approach projects with the mindset of how to utilize each person's skills. 3, support them to self-manage. By understanding the individuals on your team, you're better equipped to support them in their own self-management. Number 4, chat with them regularly to answer any questions or concerns they have. Get to know your people, both one-on-one and as a group. Encourage your team to communicate so you are the one listening and they are asking questions, not vice versa. The bottom line. What's interesting is that research shows that if you increase the reward for something a person already enjoys doing, it lessens the desire or motivation. This is why it's important to communicate with your people and learn what their individual motivators and core values are. We are all unique individuals, and this is one of those times where we need to acknowledge that. Ultimately, the question isn't about how to motivate your team because you can't. The question is, what do you need to do to inspire your team to self-motivate? Getting to know them is a great place to start. If you want to learn more about this and other topics, you can reach me through my website, intentional-coaching.com.
Finally, Ed Krow, his first time on the show, will expand on the importance of communication in an organization, especially in terms of reaching your company's overall business strategies.
Hello, my name is Ed Krow, and I work with executives and business owners who are struggling with people problems, such as adapting to changing business conditions and customer, investor, or community expectations. I turn their irrelevant and ineffective HR functions into strategic contributors by aligning HR with the business objectives. As a result, HR actually drives business results. Today, I'd like to talk about exactly that. How do we get our people on board and working towards our company's goals? It's kind of a simple process, really. It's 4 steps, but as we'll see, those steps take time. It takes a commitment from company management. It takes creating buy-in amongst the employees. But most of all, it's in painting the picture of where we want to go and motivating our people to want to go there with us. So let's talk about this. You've probably heard the term or the phrase line of sight. And to some, it means something. Others, it's an ambiguous term. For me, all it means is the perception of the degree that an employee can influence the company's ability to hit its strategic goals through their everyday efforts. In other words, can I see that what I do today will impact the company's future tomorrow? That's really all line of sight is. And it's really the crux of where business success happens. You see, it's so often that business executives will go off on retreat. They'll develop a company strategy, they'll come back, And if we're lucky, they'll share that strategy. Many times they don't. And then we wonder why businesses don't hit their goals. It's one reason and one reason only. The people who made the plan for the company, of the company's goals, aren't the only people working towards those company goals. It's every single person in the organization. And so let's talk about a 4-step process that we can use to get all of our people on board with our strategic goals. The first thing we have to do is create a core message. What I mean by that is our employees have to first understand the business strategy and the reasons behind it. So if you're looking to go into new markets, we have to answer the question, well, why are we doing that? If we are developing a new product or a service, we've got to tell our people why we're doing that. What's going on out in the greater marketplace that's driving our business to make these changes and to do these things? Ultimately, we don't want to stand up and just tell our people that this is what we're doing. We have to give them the business reasons behind it. And we have to communicate it in terms that those people can relate to their jobs. And you see, this is where organizations fail the most, because they fail to make that connection on a departmental or perhaps even individual level. They fail to tell the sales team exactly what an increase in revenue means to the sales function. They fail to tell R&D what it means to them, the folks on the front line what it means to them, and so on. So we've got to customize our message. This is not a one-size-fits-all type of scenario. One of the best ways you can create this message is by giving employees a chance to help you develop the message. Bring focus groups together. Let them tell you, this is how we need to hear this message. This is how the things have to be worded. This is what we need to hear to really create the buy-in. That's where the magic happens. What you have to be careful of is that company-wide rollout. So again, I want to stress, make sure that the message can be heard and understood by each facet of your employee work group. That way, they make sure they know what actions they absolutely need to take to help impact those goals. Now, once we have that communication lined up, now it's time to define leadership's role. What is their driver of employee engagement? And it comes back to this idea of communication. You see, once we roll out the message, communication doesn't stop there. It's up to our leaders to set that vision and bring it to life for our people. They've got to walk the talk. They've got to be fired up about where the company's going, and they have to exhibit the behaviors required to achieving the strategy. People will follow good leaders. We know this. They'll also follow bad leaders sometimes. So the reality is, those leadership actions have to be congruent with the message that we send out about where our strategy is taking us, so that people can see that management is walking the talk. Now, the third step is to create an interactive approach. This step is more predicated upon your company culture than anything else. Because employees, for them to truly commit, they've got to be able to raise concerns about the message, about the strategy. They've got to be able to weigh in. And as leaders, we need to let them know they will be heard. It obviously does not mean that we're going to act on every concern or complaint or suggestion, but we have to hear it. We have to explain why we will move in that direction or why we can't. And so culture has a big piece to play here. This is where employees will start to look for processes that support the message. One great example is you can't preach to a customer service call center that we care a lot about our customers and we're empowering you with one call resolution. No matter how long it takes, you take care of that customer and make sure that their complaint, their problem, whatever, is resolved. And then turn around and create a bonus system that rewards people for how many calls they take in an hour. We do this all the time in business, and that sends two very different messages to our people about what's important. The final thing is sometimes the hardest, and that's measuring success. And then you may say, yeah, well, gosh, that's easy. But the reality is that if we can't truly measure our success, we can't reward our people. And so this is where we have to hold our frontline management team accountable to establish clear outcomes and measures. If we can't measure what we're trying to achieve, then we need to move in a different direction. We'll never know if we've hit our goals if we cannot measure our success. And my parting thought is that please do not make this a flavor of the month. When you commit to a strategy, commit to it. Stick through it. Give it time to process. If you get into a flavor of the month, people won't commit to anything because they'll know that something else is coming down the line later. So if you want to know more about how you align your people with your company goals, I encourage you to follow me on Twitter at EdKrowHR. That's EdKrowHR. Or check out my website and blog post at edkrow.com. Thanks and enjoy your day.
Motivation may work in the short term, but creating inspiration will result in your team being self-motivated and move your company closer to your overall business objectives. I'd like to thank John Hittler, Frances McIntosh, and Ed Krow for sharing their insights. We'll see you on the next episode.
This has been Inside Forbes Councils. Please be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you're a member of the Forbes Councils and would like to participate in our podcast series, please email your member concierge. If you're interested in joining a Forbes Council, learn more at ForbesCouncils.com.